Bust it.
Hello and thanks for staying with us. Welcome to Political Platform. My name is Amecha Napwe. Beautiful Monday morning in the nation's capital. The city calm after the earth tremors, but floods along the coastal states. The one we are familiar with floods. We are not familiar with earth tremors, earthquakes. Experts are still trying to determine what happened in Abuja through last week. Several parts of the city shaking as a result of some tremor. But the political turf is equally shaky. In the PDP, 12 aspirants for the presidency, dropping over about 15 million. The party is smiling to the banks. If you calculate what the PDP and the APC have made, they run into billions. We have 120 governorship aspirants under the PDP. Times it by, is it 8.5 million or is it 6?
It's almost about 7.5.
Then you can know that we are talking about nearly $1 billion naira. Same thing with APC. But another party, Social Democratic Party, SDP, is also smiling home to the banks, 10 million for presidential aspirants. 5 of them have collected from former governor of Cross River State, Donald Duke, former Information Minister Jerry Gana, Professor Sakwe, Professor Haga, and John Dara. They have all picked their forms, and the party is uncomfortable that efforts to use the Eagle Square in Abuja for its national convention is being frustrated by FCT authorities. They said when they asked the facility manager to allow them make payment and book a date, they asked them to get a police permit. They said they went to the police, got the permit, and came back again. The facility manager said no, go and get approval from the minister. And they're uncomfortable that what happened to Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, PDP chieftain, also happened to them. We recall that time the facility manager said, the minister said it was strictly an issue handled by the facility manager. Now again, it appears the authorities are not comfortable with another party having that venue. Eagle Square, the fountain of Nigeria's democracy, as venue for their convention. Well, what we gather from the Social Democratic Party is that they are going to write to the FCT minister this morning, and their prayer is that the FCT minister should honor the invitation to use the Eagle Square. Moving forward, some restructuring debate, the APC accusing the PDP of playing to the gallery and playing politics with calls for restructuring. They called most of them latter-day converts to restructuring. The likes of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and former Senate President David Mark lent their voice as usual. They have been consistent with calls for restructuring. But the APC says they are simply playing to the gallery. But so many people are asking APC what is happening with this committee, El-Rufai, governor of Kaduna State-led committee on restructuring that turned this report several months ago. The party promised to look into it. I recall on this program some of my colleagues were not comfortable with the setting up of the committee, but I pleaded with them to give the party a chance to see what they will do. It appears the party has forgotten that report. The same way the party has also forgotten the report, electoral reform report, sent in by a committee headed by former Senate President Kenan Namani. And since then, they made recommendations improved on the Mohammed Uwais report. We have not heard anything. Now, 12 days to Osun election, governorship election, will be taking you down to the southwest. Someone who is a stakeholder in election in Nigeria is already on ground. I'll be hearing from him talking about head of the election monitor group, Abiodu Ajijola. And over the weekend, the presidency denied media reports that Chief of Staff to the President, Abba Kyari, is involved in a 30 million naira fraud with a distant nephew of his. That nephew of his went to a radio station to make that allegation. They denied it yesterday. But is it not time for the chief of staff to ask himself a lot of questions? Why are allegations of corruption circling around him? He was linked allegedly with the NNPC contracts, linked allegedly, though they denied it, with a 500 million naira bribe from NNPC, and this time around another 30 million. Did we hear such allegations and controversies coming out from previous chief of staff? Is it not time he asks himself a lot of questions, or come out boldly to put the record straight? He has done so, but the more he does that, the better for everybody. My colleague is here in the studio with me, Shola Jaisimi. Welcome to Political Platform.
Well, a very lovely weekend. It's raining in Abuja, the nation's capital, and the meteorologists have told us, as well as the hydrologists, that the rains will still be very heavy, and there will be flooding, not just flash floods, but of course river floods around River Benue and River Niger. So all the people that live in those coastline areas need to do the needful. And what is that? The Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency says you need to relocate, as well as NIMET, the Nigerian Meteorological Services Agency. So that's the alert that has gone out again on the need for us to avoid an impending disaster of huge proportions. Remember what happened 6 years ago about this time? Lots of lives were lost. Property worth millions and hundreds of millions of naira were lost to the floods as the river Labo. The Labo Dam in Cameroon was opened. Now, no dam is being opened. The dams that we might have challenges with are the dams in Nigeria, the Kenji Dam and the other one at Jebba. So we need to just get ourselves in order. Disaster preparedness is a challenge in Nigeria. And talking about disaster preparedness, you mentioned, Amechi, about the tremor in Abuja Wednesday and early hours of Thursday in our own very, like they call it in local parlance, domot. And the preparedness of the agencies. The warnings and alerts go out early enough. Not a few analysts have said it didn't go out enough, that the Nigerian Geological Services Agency ought to have been on its toes in this area and, encouraged NEMA as well as FEMA, that's the Federal FCT Emergency Management Agency, to brace up and get these notices, notifications, alerts out there, not to be reactionary to this thing, so that people don't begin to wonder. Some were thinking, has the end come? And they said,
it was a panicky situation.
Very panicky. People in the highbrow Meitama and the highly populated Mpape, that's
up to Gwarimpa, Jabi, and I was at Mabuchi yesterday, and they were narrating the audio. Most of them ran out from their houses, but assurances came from the authorities that everything is calm.
So we hope everything remains calm, but preparedness and early alerts will go a long way to help the people of the FCT and other people in Nigeria. Back to politics, Amechi. The president, will I call it the decline to assent to the Electoral Act amendment? Electoral Act, yes. The
amended Electoral Act bill.
That's giving cause for concern. Members of the parliament, the federal parliament, have been saying, look, Mr. President, do the needful. It's exactly about 38 days, today, that the president's aides have said, look, the president has some concerns about certain components.
That he was studying the past.
He was studying. Good. Now, if the president is studying this, even his key supporters in the federal parliament, such as the spokesperson of the House of Representatives, Committee on Media and Publicity, Abdulrazak Nanda, said, look, Mr. President, I'm your key supporter, but on this one, you need to do the needful, Mr. President. Sign it so that we can have a broader picture of what it entails in the coming elections as they come.
The narration out there was that the president was afraid of strengthening the card reader to make it the sole means of accrediting voters, doing away with incidence form, using electronic forms to transmit results from the polling center to the INEC control center. But the presidency said yesterday, how can this president be afraid? This is a man who has benefited, at least he's confessed by himself, that he benefited from the introduction to a limited extent of card reader in 2015. In 2015, you can use card reader, but where it fails, resort to incidence form. But some people said it was a smart way, a window politicians exploited, and there are huge votes that you cannot, incredible as they appear.
You mentioned it, Amechi, last week. You said in Kano, the president got a whooping almost 2 million votes, while in the
in
South
Rivers
State,
State, the PDP also got questionable votes, and people said they were down. And some other places, they said it was down to the incidents form. So if the president would really live by his words to say he's not afraid of career, time is running out.
It is.
How many days to the election, and the Electoral Act is not there? I felt the president should have signed that Electoral Act amendment bill, sign it, then propose amendments. Those areas you believe are problematic is an ongoing thing, is organic, is evolutionary.
At the time that the president,
the observations are well noted. Sign it, then come up with an amendment bill. After all, this is the fourth time the third time we are amending the Electoral Act. It was amended 2010. It was amended just before the election in 2015. So amendments is a continuous process. If the president, if he was sensitive to the fact that we are running out of time, he should have signed and sent amendments. But
so is the president in the offing?
Well, I wouldn't know. The presidency is urging the National Assembly to quickly reconvene and do the needful in terms of the observations of the president, so that he'll bring it back and he'll sign. But there are insinuations that the National Assembly, scheduled to reconvene September 25, may shift it to October, second week of October. And if that happens, then the wait continues. We'll take a break. When we come back from the break, your input into this program, well appreciated. An integral part and critical part of this program. Please, your mails, short, straight to the point. Some people are writing epistles. We appreciate that you have so much to tell us, but limit it so that we can accommodate as much as possible.
Hello and welcome. It's the mail segment. I am Ait Yari.
And I'm Amaka Okoro. Welcome.
We begin from Lagos, where Nosike is writing in and says, the spokesman for the group that paid the 45 million naira for President Buhari's re-election nomination bid said they want the president to continue with his good works, which according to him include the defeat of Boko Haram, improved security, good governance, and so on. So what does the president need $500 million military aircraft for if Boko Haram has been defeated? What are people still doing in IDP camps? Have you recently passed through Newman to Jalingo to Ukari and so on? A journey from Yola to Onitsha, which 4 years ago took about 10 hours, now takes 24 hours due to bad roads. Isn't it a shame that within 3 years, Nigeria has become the poverty capital of the world and millions of jobs lost by hitherto gainfully employed Nigerians? May God help us.
And Bashiru Kanabe from Edo State writes on the States of the Nation and says, good morning, Political Platform crew. I wanted to thank President Muhammadu Buhari and his cabinet on the good job they are doing in Nigeria, for believing in continuity of governance to better the lives of Nigerians, and also to bring to their notice some areas of the economy they need to take a good look at. 1. I want the Minister of Power to be aware that Nigerians are still paying estimated bills without prepaid meters, while the electricity supply is still epileptic. 2. I want the Minister of Power to be aware I want the Minister of Works and Power to be aware that the interstate Nigerian roads are almost all in bad condition, as I urge him to do a drastic work on the roads, considering the December period we are entering into. 3. I want to bring to the attention of the Minister of Agriculture that the Bank of Agriculture's loan don't get to the common man that really needs it for the supposed purpose, but it has been hijacked by influential politicians who probably don't use it for any agriculture purpose.
And that's it on the mail segment. Continue to write to us through Political Platform at raypower.fm.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We have making efforts to link the Southwest. Abiodu Ajijola is standing by. Abiodu Ajijola of the Election Monitor on Osun governorship election. 12 days to go, Abiodu. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
What's the situation? Are we getting ready for that polls?
Yeah, the elections are, wrapping up just less than 2 weeks to go, and campaigns are going on all over the state by various parties simultaneously, and the atmosphere is heating up, and at least it's getting more, the posters everywhere, banners, things are happening. It's it's looking very like election season.
Election seasons. The parties. It appears the main election, the general elections, early next year is beclouding this Osun governorship election. However, attention seems to be shifted to the main elections in 2019.
Well, I think, of course, there are many issues concerning the 2019 elections, which might, especially the primary parties which are coming up, which might, in the public space. But in terms of INEC as an organization, I know that they have been working very hard preparing for Osun for several months. In fact, from the time the notice was made available for the election, which was a long time ago, efforts have been made, in terms of, working on the equipment, in terms of, putting in things in place in order to ensure the elections will go smoothly.
I recall I spoke with you on our sister station AIT just before the Ekiti governorship election, and you said it was going to be close. That in fact it should be the most competitive in recent times. It turned out to be so. Do you think Osun election will be close?
Osun is a slightly different case because in Ekiti we had two very powerful contenders that were, that dominated the scene out of the 37 parties, of which, eventually two of them had 97% of the vote. But in Osun we have several formidable candidates beyond two. So what I think is that in a different way, this is going to be more competitive than the Ekiti election because the front line, or let me say, it has a much more competitive nature by more formidable set of parties. You can't just say it is only two parties or it's this person or that person. In the Osun elections, for certain reasons and certain factors, we have several very, very strong contenders beyond two. So we
have SDP, we have ADC doing strongly.
We have quite a lot of them. Yeah, we have a lot of them. And, some of these parties are also, fallouts from, some of the bigger parties. Maybe there has been a disagreement or one lost in the primaries and then the campaigning on their own and on, so we have people that have have clout, have reputation, have followers, and yet, as a result of maybe they had to leave their party or they formed another party, so it's quite a very, very competitive field, and it actually will be from my opinion, I think it's probably going to be more competitive than even that of Ekiti, and very much more interesting because you cannot even say who is likely to win or anything. You can't really say that. It's really competitive. Osun State doesn't have so much history of electoral violence. When it comes to electoral violence, in 2015, for example, when we observed incidences of election violence pre-2015 elections, we could only find one in Osun State, whereas Ekiti, for example, we had 4 incidences. So generally, Osun doesn't have that track record of violence in elections. But you see, this election is a very passionate one because you can imagine that the stakes are very high considering 2019, considering the alignment of the major political parties, and considering, like I said, the competitive nature and the level of formidable candidates that are at play. And the candidates are not also from the same place. So you have some from Ilesha, some from Osun, from Iwo, some from, Ede, you have from Ife, you have from, Olaoluwa, different areas. So when you have the diverse field like this and very strong candidates, then it means that there are certain points of, focus. And it's likely that those areas could be flashpoints. So we expect that those are areas of concern that the security agencies should watch out for, especially to ensure that all goes well in this area.
Against the backdrop of INEC's insistence that it will frustrate vote buying. For instance, before now, the resident electoral commissioner has said they won't allow people to go with their phones into the polling booth where they will tamper because they don't want to capture the evidence to collect the money later.
Yes, I think you see part of the issue is that, when you talk about vote buying, it's a very broad subject. But I think any kind of selling of votes in terms of inducement that is going on before the election is very, very difficult to prevent. But you see, the most and the worst of it is the one that happens on election day. Because somebody can go to a political party rally, collect rice, collect t-shirts, and go to another political party rally, collect the same rice, t-shirt, and money, because people, unfortunately are doing these things. But on election day, when you go to the polling unit to go and vote, right, your vote is only for one party, right? So whoever is paying on that day is trying to, so there's a contest among those who are purchasing to ensure that they win the person who can only vote in one particular direction. So while it is important to do everything to stop some of these inducements before the election, the worst of the inducement is the one that happens on election day, and that is the most significant type of inducement because it's the one that is directly related to how people vote. And if INEC has come out to say it's going to frustrate that and is able to successfully achieve that with the support of the security agencies and well-meaning citizens, then I think that would have done a big blow. Because even on the election day, when you see people going to bribe, to pay for votes, you discover that there's always a means of communication between the person that has voted and who will pay him. So
yes, I think that's what INEC is trying to avoid, to cut that line of communication, because it's only when you expose your voting that you get paid. Now, if they ban the use of mobile phone, and if they place the polling booth more strategically in such a way that the principle of secret voting must be enshrined and protected, then it will be difficult for those with the money to really determine whether these voters voted for their party or not.
Basically, that's what the commission has come out to say. And I think with the issue of mobile phones, from what I understand, it isn't that people cannot have their phones with them at the polling booth, or they can't, but I think what I understand, but I'm sure we'll still get clarification on that, is that you are not allowed to take your phone to the actual voting cubicle itself, right? So, for example, what they don't want is that you take your phone to with your ballot paper to cast your vote. That is what I am sure that the commission is not interested in. But I think that you have your phone as you go to the queue and you're on the queue. I'm not sure that that one is the problem. But we still wait for more clarification on that. But I think the commission generally has put in place strategies, many of which on the election we're going to find out, probably not wanting to give everything away so that it will catch those who are planning the vote buying unawares and ensure that, as the commission has said, it will make this election a statement for the 2019 election.
Okay.
So we're still watching to see what it's going to use, but we believe they're going to be amazing and wonderful, that will really help to address this issue, because this is important to build confidence for 2019.
We have to thank you so much, Abiodun Ajijola. I know you're very good with figures. By the time we call you back on Thursday, on Wednesday, we'll look at the numbers. Registered voters, card reader, collected, distributed are very important as we go into this election. So we'll get back to you Wednesday or Thursday for the numbers.
Thank you very much for having me.
Telling us not clearly now whether they will prevent Nigerians from going into the voting point proper with their cell phones. I don't know whether that will happen.
At the last stakeholders meeting with the media, the national chairman of the INEC clarified that they cannot stop Nigeria from using facilities that they have at their disposal. I think it was a statement by one of the residents.
The REC in Osun State.
But I think the national headquarters has clarified that situation.
Okay, thank you so much for being part of the program today. We'll return tomorrow for another edition. Do have a wonderful day. My name is Amichi Anapwe.